You're listening to the Next Play Podcast, a podcast for personal development, high achievers, and anyone not wanting to settle for average. We break down mindset, strategy, and unpopular truths behind next level growth. I'm your host, Justin Pates, joined by my co-host, Parker McGee. Let's get into it.
Okay. We're going to upload them when we get to 10 or what?
Episode 9 on the Next Play Podcast is the Next Play Mindset. I think we have the perfect guest in Colton because he made a pretty rash, transition in life. Moving from Jersey?
Yep.
Jersey boy. I mean, prior to that, he moved a lot, right?
Yeah, I was moving around quite a bit.
The decision to come here and join AE has been a pretty wild ride. So walk me through that.
Yeah, so right out of college, I took an internship. I went to Minnesota. I worked for the football team there. I interned, worked an unpaid job, and then after that, there was an opportunity came up at Army, and I drove out 15 hours out there. I got there, and our head coach came to me, asked me if I want to do the analytics. So I handled the analytics, a lot of decision making, enjoyed doing that. But they were going to give me a stipend. They gave me $7,000 for the entire year to live off of. And, I was living at the facility. It was fun because we had an amazing year. We went 12-2, and after the year, I went to Rutgers. I got a job there, and I was like, I didn't know if I wanted to make it all work with the hours and the pay and everything. And Parker gave me a call, and I decided it was just my time to get out of football. I talked with a lot of people about it, and it just felt right. No matter what you do, if you're not fully committed to it, what's the point? I felt miserable working from 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night, and I was getting $250 a week. And I decided I had enough, and I packed my bags and I drove here, and it's been going great so far. I've only been here a couple days, but
you mentioned commitment in a big decision. When you made the big decision to ultimately even move and go coach, what were you committing to then?
I just felt like, nobody from my area ever, or from my town ever leaves my hometown. You see the same people at the same bars, every time I come home, the same people are there. And I felt like I owed it to myself to, go out and coach football. And, ultimately now I've realized that, that's not the industry I want to be in. Football was great for the time being, but it was time for me to get out and do something else.
I feel like we've heard that story a lot. Getting out, going and doing something other than what the standard person or the normal person would do from your hometown.
It seemed, ultimately, in order to perform in something like this, you have to have that mindset.
Yeah.
Like you do. What, was it hard for you to leave something that you cared about so much?
Yeah, for sure. I obviously, the football industry, you work a lot of hours, you're with those people for a very long time. You get to know people really well. You build relationships and everything. And, I learned so much from those people and the people I was surrounded by. But at the end of the day, it just was not making me happy. For myself, I want to be able to have a family. I want to have kids someday. Am I going to be able to sustain that in that industry? I don't think it's possible. There's coaches that do have families and they have kids, but it's difficult to do that in that industry.
So what helped you, say, on to the next? Because ultimately, it's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Moving into change.
Yeah, there was just a lot of things going on at Rutgers that, I felt like it didn't align with myself, and some of those things were, things that I was made or told to do at work. I'm the person, I'll do anything for anyone if you trust in me and respect me and treat me the right way. But the things that I was being told to do there, I just didn't think it aligned with myself, and that's why I ultimately decided to move on and do something else.
I feel like you definitely have to find like love in whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
That's why I was like trying to juice you up the other day, because like even here, like I feel like the best performers and installs, production, office admins, marketers, like are the people that just come to work just jazz the fuck up, like to go get it every single day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just what I wasn't feeling. I would wake up and it was hard for me to get out of bed. I've been here 2 days and I can get out of bed. Like, it's easy for me to get out of bed. I'm like, I can't wait to, get to work today and learn something and do something else. Like, I was miserable, and I'm happy that I got out of it. It's been 2 days, but I already feel like, I'm headed in the right direction.
There's a study that they did on rats, right? Like, they put the smell of a cat behind the rat, so then it was running away from something, and then they put the smell of cheese in front of the cat, so it was running, or in front of the mouse, so it was running towards something.
Yeah.
So like, obviously you were running away from a life that you didn't want, but like, in order to, have that complete drastic, like, next play mindset, like, you've got to be running towards something too.
Right.
Like, what is it, ultimately that you're running towards? Like, is it, towards that life of?
Yeah, and I think, at the end of the day, you want to do something with people that you respect and you want to be around. Like, I felt like where I was at, I loved some of the people I worked with, but the people at the top, their decisions and what they decided to do, I just didn't align with me. So, I don't want to bust my ass and work all these hours for someone, I don't feel like I align in their vision. So.
Mm-hmm.
Did the goal just seem blurry?
Yeah, it didn't seem blurry. I understand, Rutgers football is in a stage where, we're 7-6. We're in the middle of the Big Ten. I understand, everyone understands the Big Ten and the competition and everything in it, but we were in the middle of the pack, and some of the things he expected, like we would sit outside of the gates during practice and make sure no one can come and watch practice. There was just things that were going on that, like, he thought there would be a helicopter, for instance, that drove over practice one day, and he was like, who is that? We need to find out who it is. It's like, no one's watching practice, man. Just focus on winning games. We're here to win. We're not focusing on all these outside distractions. Like, let's win the fucking game. We went 7-6 last year. How about you focus on, scheme or, figuring out how to make this team.
Controlling what you can control.
Right.
I was going to ask, and then I feel like that'd be a really good answer to this question of like, how do great leaders reset or, after a win or a loss? Right? Kind of like, always having that next play mindset, but like, what are some strategies behind that?
Yeah. So when I was at Army, Coach Monken, he did a fantastic job of, we lost the biggest game of our lives. The Army Navy is like the biggest game of the year every year. And, we lost that game. And then immediately after the game, like we came into the locker room and he immediately said 365 fucking days before we play these guys again. And, it was a very hard loss at the time, but he was immediately already focused on the next year and that game. That was the last game of the year and the most important game of the year. And he's already saying 365 fucking days before we play these guys again, and we need to win that game. So I think that was a good mindset at the time. But obviously next play and anything you do in life, opportunities are going to come in life. And, if you don't take advantage of those opportunities and, go after them, you're just letting things go by in life. Like if you're not liking something, which I wasn't enjoying where I was at, I decided, fuck it. I'm going to go and do this because I 100% believe in Parker. I've heard a lot of good things about this place and what he's building here. So I decided it aligned with me, and that's what I want to do. So
one of the craziest stories I think I have that kind of plays off like what you just asked, JP, is like when I first moved out to Polypro, like I was 19, 20 years old, and I moved from Madison, Wisconsin out to Fort Wayne, which was like 6 hours away from like, and I didn't have any family. I didn't know anyone here. Like I didn't know anyone within, my sister was down in Indianapolis because that was the closest person. And probably for the first year of me getting Polypro, which they bought Polypro, which was a very small organization, 2 owners that really, really clashed, had an office admin who clashed with me, clashed with the owners, had production guys that didn't respect me because they were all like, 17, 18-year-old kids that, were just not aligned with where I wanted to go. And I probably heard for the first at least 6 to 8 months, just like, this kid's not going to make it. He's not going to be able to do it. Like the private equity people that, bought TSR, or like, up Tarun and Jeff saying, we don't think this kid's the right fit for it. And like, I had to hear that for 8 straight months. And in anything you do, like, when you're a coach, right, you get into a new team, like what's the whole like voice around that? They're not going to make it. He can't transform this team, right, et cetera. But it's like, it gets to the point where you just have to like just dial out all that outside noise and just, again, focus on the controllables. Cause I knew like if I just trusted the process and do what I'd always done, I'd get the results that I wanted. And I think that's a big, big thing that people always, miss on because they're just so concerned with all the outside shit. And it's like, if they fire me, they fire me. Right. Sure. It's like I can't control that, but what I can control is like making this organization the best thing possible, and flash forward 4 years later, we're going to take Polypro from, when I got here was a little, I think over 2 million to now we'll do like 20 million in concrete coatings in the Polypro division. And it's like, it's happened so many times, happened with Revamp, happened with AE. We've had some offices that are rocky, but it's just like, trust the process, do what we've always done, and we'll get the results that we want.
I'm sure like those, like not only like were they talking on the outside, but like you saw the evidence of why they were talking, right? Like things probably weren't going too well. And kind of like what you said, like opportunities are always going to come. So like, yes, people are talking. Yes, I am losing, but there's going to be more, there's another day tomorrow to where like I could win. Like they're right until they're not. And I think that's like the most important thing when it comes to the next play mindset of like, yes, this happened, but it's always on to the next. Like it's always on to the next appointment, or even, literally the next play, like as a coach, like that didn't work well. Like we might have even lost 15 yards, but like on to the next play, like we're going to go, for it.
Well, I think backing up too and like talking about why Colton's even sitting here, like we drive out to St. Louis to meet with a guy that we thought we were going to start an organization with in St. Louis. He backs out in the last hours of the deal. We wake up the next morning and like immediately I'm like, fuck, like we're out. Like we just drove 12 hours. Like we pretty much just pissed away this whole weekend. Like we really thought St. Louis was going to be, the next stop for AE, and we could have easily just buried it in the sand. Instead, me, Sean, and Braden were like, fuck it. We're going to do it anyways. We just start immediately hitting the phones. We fucking get on the phone with Colton. We're like, yo, we need you. We need you here ASAP. Like, we're trying to open this. Like, if you put in the work, I think you're going to, like the rewards down the line. And he eventually was just like, screw it. Let's go. Drives out 10 hours, breaks up with his girlfriend, quits Rutgers football, like complete whirlwind. But like, those are the people that I respect too, that it's just like it's like, fuck it, let's go. Like, let's ride. And that's how I am too. Cause it's like, what worst comes to worst, it's like we piss away 2 years of our lives and we walk away and at least know that we gave this thing a shot at something that I feel like will like truly change like our lives.
There's no such thing as something for nothing though. Cause ultimately, like, yes, you pissed away those 2 years, but you just got 2 years of knowledge.
Yeah.
Like it's always, on to the next if something bad happens. But again, even if something good happens, it's always on to the next.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can always learn from it, but as long as you don't dwell in the past and move on with, the next opportunity or whatever happens, like that's where you kind of find that success.
Yeah.
Was it Was there ever a point where you thought, you know, there wasn't going to be a next play?
In what, St. Louis?
Well, I mean,
Anything.
like, I guess even in general, anywhere. Like, because obviously I'm sure, like, people watching right now, like, it's like, oh, easy for them to say, right? But they're not dealing with what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
So, like, has there been a point where you literally thought, like, this is it? But then ultimately, like, there was.
I used to be a grade A crash out. I mean, he knows, playing sports with me, like, something would just completely fucking ruin me. Versus, like, now I feel like my brain is just so cemented with just, like, fuck it, next up. Like, next up. Like, if, you know, because there's just been so many people over the years that have just either, you know, quit on no notice, or we've had a truck and trailer breakdown, or we've had, you know, a customer not buy that we thought we wanted to. And, like, every single time it's like, who cares? Like, let's go. Like, next up. And, like, the faster you can reset and reload, like, and get prepared to fire again, like, you're going to make it.
Mm-hmm. What are some, because obviously, like, you know, your brain, when something negative happens, is the most, you know, absorbent of what's going on, because obviously it's preparing for the next time that happens. Like, do you feel like it is pretty, like, I mean, obviously going through, you know, however many bad times, I mean, is it, you know, fair to say that there is always just going to be a next play? Like, time always goes on?
I think that, you know, obviously there's going to be opportunities presented to you, you know, that come along. And I think that no matter what you decide to do, you have to be all in on it. You know, these things are going to be presented to you. And, you know, I thought for myself, I was all in on football. You know, my thing was football. I'm going to make this shit work. And, you know, ultimately it didn't work out for me. And now I'm here, and now I'm all in on being here. You know, I want to learn from Parker. You know, I want to learn from everyone that's here. You know, you put yourselves in these different environments, and you get to learn how people operate, how people, you know, run their businesses, and you pick little things up from every job that you're at. I don't regret anything, you know, any of the jobs I took at Army, at Minnesota, at Rutgers. I learned 1,000 things from those guys. Those guys know how to run programs, but at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for yourself too. So
sometimes that next play is in a new game.
Fire. Chop that up.
You like that, huh? Because, like, there is always like time, like, no matter what, you'll wake up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Fact. Right? Yeah. So, like, you know, sometimes it does take the complete just, like, closing of that door and opening up a new one.
Right.
Like, you know, breaking up with your girlfriend, quitting your job, new state, you know, we're moving from a different place, even from here. Like, I think sometimes, like, that is what's required, because, you know, we had a podcast, winners lose more than winners do, right? But eventually, right, like, you keep eating shit, but then your bag just gets that much bigger, right? And again, there's no such thing as something for nothing. So maybe the next play is in a new game, and that's just, you know, you can win at that, right?
Yep.
But you can't let what happened, you know, take away from the next play.
Right.
JP, wrap us up, brother.
I mean, shit's going to go bad, right? But there's always going to be tomorrow. The sun will come out tomorrow. So I think, you know, understanding that, like, losing is part of the game, right? But there is always going to be a next play.
We have too many good players on our team to not make this thing work.
Mm-hmm.
Too many good players to not make it work. And I think the next, you know, year, 2, 3 years is going to be, you know, definitely some of the biggest years of my life. I think of yours. I think of Charles, Braden, like, all these guys. Like, we have too many winners to continue losing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited for it.
There's always, I mean, again, always the next play. Thoughts, Coach?
Just gonna, you know, continue to stack days every day. You know, every day is a new day, like you said, and you know, you're gonna learn something. You're gonna have bad days. You're gonna have good days. But no matter what you do and the way you respond to it is gonna be exactly, you know, you own your own success. your ability to be, responding to, let's say for example, I wake up one day and I go to work and I'm having a shitty day, but someone comes up to you. There's always someone out there that's having a worse day, and at the end of the day, you have to look in the mirror and be like, I'm going to have a positive attitude today. You're the person that gets to decide that your choice of having a good day or having a bad day.
That's stacked fucking days.
Want to know each day. Want to know each play. Let's go. All right. Good deal. I kind of like these, like, just cutoffs.
Yeah.
Like, cool.
We just went crazy.